Broadcasting live. It's America's longest running talk show on computers. It's Computer America, bringing you the biggest names in technology with guest interviews, new products, and your emails. Listen live at computeramerica.com on any device around the world. Email the show at live@computeramerica.com or find us on social media. Be sure to check out our website for contests, giveaways, show notes, live video stream, podcasts, and more. You're listening to Computer America.
Hello and welcome into the Computer America Show. We are the nation's longest running, nationally syndicated radio talk show on computers and technology. Thank you for joining us. I'm your host, Ben Crossman, and everyone out there, thank you so much for tuning in. I hope that you're doing wonderful. And hey, you're ready for some Computer America. Let me just first off by saying that I apologize for my voice and any coughing that I do or anything like that. I've been dealing with the cold for the past, 2 or 3 days now. And I have never wished for death as much as I did for having a minor cold. So I will say that I'm handling it well, is what I'm saying. So everyone, with that being said, why don't we go ahead and just say that today on the program, we have none other than Popzara. If you haven't heard of them, popzara.com. And hey, we're going to be talking all about some recent events, current events, and, hey, just having fun with it. So everyone, be sure to check out their website, check out the podcast. We just recorded a segment with Popzara and their crew to talk all about CES 2020, what happened there, trends and things that we saw, interesting things. Definitely check that out. But of course, check out computeramerica.com. That will have links to our guest website. It will have links to anything and everything that we talk about, any products, any articles, anything and everything at computeramerica.com. That's all you need to remember. And, of course, find us on social media, check out the video broadcast, and more. Everyone, hey, one last time, welcome into the show. Want to go ahead and jump right into it. And as I said before, Popzara, more specifically, Mr. Nathan Evans, managing editor himself, is here with us. So let's go ahead and unmute, and we should be good there. Nathan, welcome back onto Computer America. How you doing?
Hey, Ben, you have what I probably had post CES. So I wish you quick, speedy recovery. Lots of hot tea with, honey and lozenges. And
it's and it's probably going to be gone completely by tomorrow, though I can't pin it on CES, and I'm honestly surprised I didn't get sick from CES. It's been about 3 weeks, and luckily the coronavirus has about a 2-week germination period, but I don't know where I got it from. I'm going to blame Walmart. Why not? Sure, yeah. And I mean, luckily, again, I'm getting over it. So
it's a good thing you don't have to talk every day.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But hey, you're here. And speaking of talking, why don't we start talking? And before we do, why don't we go ahead and mention Popzara and real quick talk about what people can find there.
Wait. They all know about Popzara. We got to talk about something else real quick.
What's
Superbowl.
Oh yeah, that was a thing that I didn't watch yesterday.
I'm in Kansas, right?
So
Kansas is where the Kansas City Chiefs are. That's what the president said. So obviously, no. The little PSA: Kansas City Chiefs are from Kansas City, Missouri, which is about 25 minutes from where I'm at right now.
Mm-hmm.
Lots of fireworks last night. There's this really cool video of this radar system from a local weather report. If you have a chance to check it out, you can see the fireworks exploding. It looks like an Atari 2600 game. It's actually pretty cool. By the way, here's a little PSA for your listeners. There are 2 Kansas Cities, people.
Yeah.
There's one in Kansas, which is the slum, and there's Kansas City, Missouri, which is awesome. This is where Google Fiber's from and all that. So it's a pretty big tech community.
Well, I thought Google Fiber was running both.
It runs all over the place.
Yeah.
But its mecca, its birthplace was Kansas City, Missouri.
Right.
And it's if you went there, you'd think you were like a mini San Diego or something. It's pretty well stacked out, but 10 minutes in any direction, you're in the slums.
Oh.
So as just like San Francisco.
Yeah,
So
there we go. But so speaking of the Super Bowl, of course, the big thing, the ads, and of course the game. I did not catch either. Honestly, I kind of wait like 24 hours after you get the scores, you get the highlights, you get the best commercials of the whole thing,
mhm.
and you call it a day. You don't have to sit through a 4-hour Super Bowl that you don't care about. Did you sit through it?
Hell no, I don't care about the Super Bowl. No, look, I'll be honest with you. I'm a fair weather fan. I'm from New England, and so naturally, when you're from New England and your team dominates football for 20 years, it gets kind of passé. So then I'm in Kansas City, and now apparently success follows me. So now the Kansas City Chiefs have won the Super Bowl, first time in 50 years. So no, I got to tell you something though. I didn't watch the game or anything. I heard it was pretty good, but the commercials, man, I got to tell you something. They're getting worse.
You
There's
think?
like no imagination. It's just, hey, what 80s or 90s movies did we see? Can we get that person? Let's put them in and we'll just recreate that moment. And that's what all these things
There's
were.
well, and really there's and the little bit of information that I was able to pick up, $5.6 million per 30 or 60-second slot, something like that. And the big part about that is when you're charging, and that's the highest they've ever charged for Super Bowl ad airtime. And that is a lot of money to put a particular ad. You don't want something weird, controversial, something that's going to turn people off, even though it could get people talking. I think that a lot of these companies, kind of play it safe, or the companies that would go a little bit edgier are priced out of that market, and you only get the mainstream, middle of the road, $5.6 million owning companies.
Well, it's funny. Like you have this whole event where, like you said, I agree with you. You want to be cautious. You have a Super Bowl where the halftime show is essentially just a big stripper show, and then you put these mediocre commercials in, and that the funny part is you can see the influence of Twitter, you can see the influence of like TikTok and Facebook,
Hmm.
because they're all vying for that brand name recognition. They don't. They're at the point where they don't want to alienate the olds, aka the boomers. By having things that are too crazy. Like if you've ever watched Comedy Central, and you've seen one of their Skittles commercials, you know what I'm talking about. I don't understand what's going on.
Or anything on Adult Swim, yeah.
Exactly. Like there's a guy who's half horse, half unicorn, riding with naked people on the back with a tree that spouts Skittles, and I don't know what's going on. You don't want that on prime time. No one's going to buy that. So you have Bill Murray come back in Groundhog's Day. You have Bill and Ted Esquire come back in a Walmart commercial. You have the familiar. You have this because it's funny because that's what the kids are treated to now. It's all nostalgia grabs. It's like let's recycle all the stuff and regurgitate it out for the kids. And you see that everywhere else too. So I'm not just blaming the Super Bowl, but it feels lazy to me because I know I'm a little bit older than you, but Super Bowl commercials when I was younger, were a little at least more creative. They were like you had to watch. They were spectacles, and now it just feels like a Family Guy skit. It just
It's
it just feels like a segue.
and I hate to keep going back to price, but I feel like if the price was $3 million instead of twice that, then you would have companies who are willing to kind of, I don't want to say waste their 60 seconds that they have during the Super Bowl, but they're willing to try something different. Whereas here, Tide just has to throw a face at you and say, "Oh, look, Tide," and then they're off the air. Like that's
That's
all they can
true.
do.
That's true. Again, we're competing. We're not. It's like, okay, the way TV works, you know this. Nobody watches The Daily Show. Like nobody watches a lot of these shows that are popular. What they do is like Saturday Night Live. People watch it, but they don't really watch it. What they do is they watch reruns, or they watch the show gets vivisected, split up, and disseminated on social media. So you want to be the talk of the town. You want virality. We talked about. I just mentioned TikTok. I'm not the TikTok audience. I have an attention span. But you have TikTok and you get 3 or 4 seconds and you put it on there, you become viral, and then people start talking about the TikTok. And that becomes the story. And I don't think any of these commercials really hit. I looked at some of the aftermarkets, and it looks like the most favorite commercial from the show
Hmm.
was the Bill Murray commercial, the Groundhog's Day one. Was it for Kia? So
And by the way, I'm actually looking at all the different ads right now that I can see here. And Bill Murray was, let's see, they were Bryan Cranston, Winona Ryder, Chris Evans. I'm not seeing that, but I know it's on here.
it's where they basically
Bill
recreated
Murray
scenes from
Jeep
Groundhog's Day.
Groundhog Day. It was a Jeep
Yeah,
commercial.
Jeep commercial. Yeah, that seemed to be like to go over pretty well. But you have Bill Murray, and he's pretty
Bill
much that's what
Murray
he
is a meme
does.
onto himself.
Exactly. So
Well,
yes,
and by the way, I'm looking at all these, and when I kind of say that, the price is knocking people out. One other thing I want to point to is that a lot of these commercials, you have Procter and Gamble, you have T-Mobile, who are kind of T-Mobile and AT&T who are kind of working together. Tide and Wonder Woman was a big one. There's a lot of commercials that were kind of split. Two different companies or two different sources of money came together to make a singular ad. And that kind of makes me believe that the marketing team for Wonder Woman didn't want to shell out $6 million, and Ty didn't want to shell out $6 million, but they could each shell out $3 million apiece, and they get to mix the ad together. And it's
yeah, Tide, the laundromat, the laundry cleaner. Let's take the most profitable female superhero character and let's associate her with doing laundry.
Yep.
Yay!
Well, that sounds bad when you put it like that.
Because it is bad. It's terrible. It's like that Olay commercial with the comedians and the Katie was it Katie Couric? It's like, and they're saying, oh, we're going to donate money to STEM. Well, STEM's real important, STEM, but not a single person, not a single woman in that commercial was a scientist.
And you're saying this, and actually one of the one of the trends that came out of there, and I wanted to well, it's a good way to segue. You have a story about it here, and I see this was a comment in the place where I'm finding all the different ads. Hashtag baby nut.
Yeah, baby nut. Can I just say something?
Please do, because there's a lot to say.
Let's just say this: when I saw that baby nut was taken off Twitter, it was not for the reason I thought it was for. I'll just say that. I thought, oh, that's hilarious. No, it was taken off because the PR company that
Planters
ran this ad, yeah, they literally planted ads on Twitter. They tried to manipulate. They tried to game the system, and good for them because it's cute and adorable. The idea is they were going to kill off Mr. Planner, the Mr. Peanut, but it's just a complete ripoff of Baby Yoda.
Oh yeah, for sure. And of course, for everyone watching the video portion, we're kind of showing. And honestly, it's not hard to get a cute character when you turn a well-known character into a cherubic character. Big eyes. Yeah,
we've talked about this. It's called neoteny. It's when you take well-known characteristics and you expand them and you kawaii them, as the Japanese say, into big eyes,
turn them
and big
super
mouth.
cute. Yeah.
Yeah, and let's be honest, Baby Yoda was a big hit.
Mm-hmm.
It was a huge thing. And so it was something that Star Wars hasn't had in 20 years. It was immediately likable. You know what I mean? It was immediately likable.
And by the way, and actually this article that you even linked here, and again, we'll throw it up in the show notes, but they say that Mr. Planters sacrificed himself to save his friends, which was, of course, a ripoff of Iron Man doing the same thing in Endgame. Yeah.
Yeah, that's BS. It's Baby Yoda. That's what first of all, sacrificing to save your friends, that's called Armageddon with Bruce Willis in every other movie. You know that.
Well, it's every movie and every trope dating back to as far as human history. But exactly. But then, of course, the baby peanuts or baby nuts, that is in the vein of Baby Yoda.
I'm still disappointed, Ben, that this ad was not pulled for the reasons I thought it was pulled for, but which I won't get into because this is a family show. But it's fun, isn't it? Like you still get these companies that are still trying to game the system a little bit. They're trying. It reminds me of when JCPenney got in trouble years ago when they set up all those fake SEO sites that were linking in. It's fun. It's fun to watch them get caught. It's fun to watch social media turn out to be a big bust because everybody knows it. I don't think there's any evidence like that influencers actually influence anything. It's just cheap advertising. It's cheap advertising with cheap celebrities and lowbrow, low intellect type of creations that don't really appeal to anybody. So
yeah, and we get into this entire idea of influencers as well because I think that you are right, but I think at the same time, it's how much different is it than any other celebrity? And I'm talking like real celebrities, ones in movies, on TV, blah blah blah. I feel like they're influencers in the same vein. It's just now,
Oh, definitely,
it's just that internet influencers can have real metrics as opposed to other influencers or celebrities that before you just said, oh yeah, I've heard of X, but how many people have you said, oh yeah, I, other than Oprah, how many people say I religiously do what X says?
I will say this though: patient zero for all this BS with the Kardashians, of course, Kim Kardashian,
Hmm.
and there is some evidence that the Kardashians do help certain product lines, specifically makeup, right? So I will give them credit for that. They've able to parlayed an inconvenient sex tape into a cosmetics empire. But
and
as
they were
far
able to do it by skirting the federal trade commission's rules on advertising about clearly labeling things as advertising as opposed to just having them conveniently label out in their snaps, in their tweets, in their Instagram posts,
yes,
and not actually saying this is an ad, just saying this is what I use exclusively.
oh,
And
and
yeah.
that's not even counting all the lawsuits for false advertising and lack of rigor when it comes to making sure products actually work. I mean, people forgot the Kardashians have been doing this for a long time. Look, that's capitalism. They're selling what they sell, and I don't like it. I don't approve of it. If I had a daughter, I'd tell her to run away. But I don't have a daughter, so I'm not going to tell anybody to run away. If they want to make money, that's fine. But it's just when I was growing up, we had what was called C-list and D-list celebrities.
Hmm.
Ones that would show up on Hollywood squares. This is a new category. This is like sub Z level celebrities. These are people who like got caught on a YouTube video and then turned that into viral fame. You know, and they're all over the place,
Yeah.
and they're all over the place, and that's
they're
fine and everything.
they're
But
easy. They're much easier to make from a product pushing standpoint. It's a lot easier to buy some, and we've talked about the unscrupulous ethics of buying followers and things like that for social media, and those click farms and that they have in third world countries that will click and watch videos over and over and over again. It's much cheaper to manufacture one of these influencers than it is to, let's say, make a new movie star or
I,
get someone a new TV show.
you are right, and I think we're going off a different topic. But I'll say this, your listeners, I would advise them to go look up what's happening with Twitch and Mixer right now when it comes to influencers and streaming. Uh, Mixer, of course, has been poaching people from Twitch for a while now,
A few.
and it doesn't seem to be working as far as like bringing audience over. And it's the idea that you can just, like you said, it's not buying followers, but in a way it is, right?
No,
You're trying to buy an audience.
what
And
happened with Mixer and of course Twitch, and they bought Ninja, they bought Shroud, and they bought King Gathalion, and I think they bought a couple of others, like maybe like half a dozen or a
listen to
dozen.
that. It sounds like we're talking about commodities. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah.
We're buying brands. And by the way, can I just say something as someone
Hmm.
who's been doing this for a very long time, and I'm going to put my reputation on this. So this is a big deal. Hello? Are we there? Hello? Hello?
Are we back? Nathan, can you hear me?
What happened?
Oh
Are you
yeah.
there?
Sorry, we're just gonna carry on. But actually, my soundboard actually crashed, so that's a first time that's
Oh,
happened.
I thought it was something I did. So,
No.
oh, I'm sorry.
But please go on
Okay.
and continue.
Okay, cool. So I'm going to say this as someone who's been following this for a long time, who's
Hmm.
been reporting on this for a long time, who's been commenting on this for a long time, and someone who's been holding his nose at this for a long time. The fact of the matter is that get these people on Twitch, you get these esports celebrities, and they seem to have the professionalism of a cartoon character for the most part. Like they're so willing to what we call sell out and hawk products that I don't understand the appeal to that. I assume that there's some sort of evidence that you hire Fatality to sell your arcade board or your arcade stick, and it manages to make people buy it. But I think there's enough evidence that it's not true. So I don't understand this, but I'll say this. So I was at a mall in Vegas after CES. I was walking around the
Hmm.
fashion mall, by the way. You ever been there?
I have not.
Pretty cool. We actually saw Chris. My colleague Chris and I were there. We saw someone get arrested at the Apple store. It was
Oh,
actually
neat.
kind of fun. Yeah, he's like, I didn't do anything. I didn't do anything. He's got a little box sticking out of his pants. But they had the Microsoft store there, and there was a big poster board that said Mixer lessons. I forget the date. Like they're literally advertising lessons on how to be a Mixer star, and I thought that was interesting. I'd never seen anything like that before.
Yeah.
So I'll give Microsoft a little credit because Mixer is a killer app. It's built into every copy of Windows, right? It should be a big thing, and yet it's still not. And so,
I
Godspeed
think
to
that
Microsoft. Hmm?
what you're talking about with like learn how to become a streamer
Yeah.
and be on Mixer or on Twitch, because I've seen those same kind of boot camps or lessons that you can do for Twitch as well. Those are just kind of the next step after what was a couple of years ago. Learn how to build your own YouTube channel, and you could be the next person with 1 million subscribers on YouTube, and you could be making great content that people would tune in for, and of course you make a ton of money all at the same time. Those probably those kind of boot camps probably didn't work very well either. But it's the same kind of mentality of move to Los Angeles, get a bit part, get discovered, become a movie star. Like anyone can do it. We've all heard the success stories about people living out of their cars, and then they get their first big break, and then hey, now they're A-list celebrities. It's like that, but people can do it from their home.
Here's the thing, though. That's how I got my start. I've been in this industry for over 20 years, and I got my start by moving to California for a job where I had to sit in front of a computer. It's very different. But I'll say this: the impediments that make it hard, like moving away, getting, packing, expense, all this stuff, that's the stuff that keeps out the riffraff. Like it should not be easy. That's
Hmm.
that's the old way of thinking. That the fact that it was so difficult, it was so prestigious, kept out the mediocrities. And I'm not trying to say that everyone should have to go through the gauntlet to become successful. In some ways, it's nice having some of that gone, but it's created the false impression that anybody can do it. And the fact of the matter is, yeah, anybody physically can do it. It's like saying, well, yeah, anybody can go to the bathroom. But the fact is, if you have the personality of a garden slug and you're not entertaining and you have no comic timing and you have no sense of personality, then you're probably going to fail.
I'm glad
Unless
that you took it that way and you didn't say anyone can go to the bathroom, but will anyone want to watch you? That's not where I wanted you to take that, and you
no,
didn't. So
because
I'm
you
very
would
happy you
probably
didn't.
you would be very successful if you had that.
Absolutely.
Like
So
our
I,
so
now
I don't
we
know, it's
have
crazy.
we have deviated completely, and hey, I am perfectly
Yes.
okay with that, because hey, that's what I enjoy. I enjoy this natural flow of conversation. But to bring it back around and then talk about some other topics I wanted to talk about, we started off this whole thing with the Super Bowl 54 commercials. A few standouts, like you said, and there's a full list. I might go track down the Reddit post where I found all the different, I'm guessing someone sat there and took the time to, every 30 seconds and wrote down exactly which ads went where. And I might post that to the show notes. But yeah, so few standouts is essentially what you're saying about the Super Bowl commercials.
It's like I said, it's not for me. It's
What'd
not
you
for
think
my
of the
audience
halftime show?
anymore.
Shakira
Um,
and J-Lo.
First of all, congratulations to both women who've kept their bodies in pristine order. Somebody had this really
That
funny
was on
thing.
display.
Yeah, it's like Jennifer Lopez in particular. I've always been a fan of Shakira, but I'll say this: somebody had this little meme going on. It's the whole Wilford Brimley, Tom Cruise meme kind of thing, but with
Hmm.
Jennifer Lopez. She's 50 years old, and in 1984, Rue McClaren from Golden Girls was 50. Yeah, what a difference.
Yeah.
Uh, like I said, I think I'm not a prude. I'm not reactionary about this. I look. Here's the thing: the Super Bowl is not for me, but these are impressive women. They know their stuff. They know how to dance around a pole. The whole politics of it, we're going to be anti this. We're going to put my daughter in a cage. We're going to have strippers. That's fine, everything. But the fact of the matter is, you got people talking, and they're talented. They can dance.
Yeah.
A lot of people can't dance. And Shakira, she's got the most famous hip. Okay, first of all, she's got the most famous hips in music. And Jennifer Lopez has the most famous derriere in music, okay? The only thing we're missing is a good set of breasts. And we haven't had that since Janet Jackson. So what I'm saying is, ladies, yeah, they're impressive.
Yeah.
They're impressive. I mean, I'm sorry. I mean, they're impressive. I mean, you're not going to get a look. If you're upset, you're probably a woman who says, this is objectifying women. Isn't that right, honey? Isn't that right? Aren't they being objectified? Your boyfriend, if he tells you he feels mad, he's lying to you. Okay? No, yeah, oh, look at those poor women. They're being objectified. No, those women are worth tens of millions of dollars. Okay? They're incredibly rich and successful and famous, and they've been doing this for 20 years. So they're at the top of their game.
Yeah,
and again,
and really correct me if I'm wrong, but like Shakira in particular, she was huge in like the 90s and the early 2000s, maybe the late 80s, and then she kind of had this kind of dip, and then she came back out of nowhere with like a couple hit songs.
She kind of peaked in the mid 2000s, and like I said, she did a lot of soundtracks. She did this. I think she did the soundtrack. Don't forgive me for saying this. I think she did one of the soundtracks for some DreamWorks movies. It might have been Madagascar or something. But J-Lo's been doing. She started out as a dancer on Living Color from Fox.
She was on Zootopia as well, I think.
Yeah, she was a fly girl, by the way. And then she transitioned. She's not a great actress. Okay, she's not a great singer. And a lot of people thought she was going to be nominated for an Academy Award for her breakout role in the movie Hustlers, where she played, gasp, a stripper. But she wasn't. She wasn't nominated. And I think that was the plan. But she wasn't, because she wasn't very good in it. I'm sorry, Hustlers is not a very good movie. But she can dance. And look at her. She's great.
Now, here's the other thing.
Fantastic.
These women can dance. We have established that. Now, to everyone's enjoyment, the Super Bowl and of course the halftime and all the commercials were streamed in 4K HDR. Yes, that is one other source. Thank you. Yeah. This is, and really, you can kind of say that the Super Bowl is kind of like the Olympics. They're going to use the latest technology that they can to capture the event that it is, and that it's still going to take a little bit of time for, let's say, every football game or every news station in the country or for every, nighttime talk show or whatever, to switch over to 4K HDR. But you included the story. This is, of course, I guess kind of marking, maybe the end of the transition, that we're finally getting to the point where 4K is the standard, HDR is the standard. We're getting there, I guess.
Excuse me, so I got your cold. No, I think this is not. Here's the thing, though. It's when we say 4K HDR, I think we have to put a little asterisk next to it.
Mm-hmm.
But I think according to the reports I saw, that it's actually not in true 4K. It's still upscaled. But it's still. I mean, who cares? We're getting to the point where it's not that big of a deal anymore. But they've been doing this for a while on Thursday Night Football, so we've been preparing for this for a while. But this is a change. I mean, I remember when they first went to HD years ago. That was a big deal. And so this is, I mean, it's just the natural progression of things. But it is nice to see it, because I know there was some controversy whether or not the game was going to be available like on Roku boxes for a while. And what I'm really hoping is, and this is, cross my fingers on this, Ben, is that we don't see the asinine stupidity of all the rights protections that is inherent in cable and satellite dishes. It seems like every month we hear a story about DirecTV's losing this channel for this day because they couldn't get a contract hashed out.
Yeah, I've been seeing a lot of that lately.
We saw that nonsense come to streaming boxes about a year or so ago with YouTube, with Google and Amazon. You remember when they were fighting over which channel gets who gets what?
Mm-hmm.
And then, we're going to take away your YouTube. We're going to take away your Amazon Prime. I hope that nonsense doesn't come to streaming boxes, but I think it will. But no, I think they were able to patch things up. I think, from what I heard, Roku people were able to watch the game. So that's pretty cool. That's pretty good of them. 4K HDR.
It's one of those trends that Netflix really highlighted with their business model, and a lot of companies could take a lesson from it. And you see that the most pirated content, be it Game of Thrones, be it whatever show is on, be it whatever it is. It's whatever content isn't available in that country on Netflix or Hulu to a lesser extent, or one of these other streaming services. People will pay for it if they feel like it's cheap enough, where it's, they'll spend the money on it and it's easily available. Like if you have to jump through a bunch of hoops, such as verifying that you have a cable subscription to be able to stream it to this device in this country and blah, 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 then they're just going to pirate it anyways, or they're just not going to watch it. This is an example of the Super Bowl hopefully adapting that and just saying, you know what? If people want to watch it here, charge them $8 and they can watch it. Like that seems to me, that's going to be the savior of the cable industry, is when they realize people would, hey, some of the best content in the world, it's not random YouTube videos. It's still television. Television still has the best content out there. It's just people can't get it, and they can't get it easily. Now they have to fix that problem.
Well, what's funny about it is that, like the story that we're talking about was reported from the Verge of all places, and they listed the different type of devices, how the technical limitations will be inherent with each different platform. And they said the Amazon Fire TV 4K set-top boxes and smart TVs using Fox Sports, Fox Now apps will get full 4K HDR, whereas Apple TV, which I believe is the market leader for 4K, will only stream in 4K SDR because of a device limitation, which is interesting because Amazon boxes were actually sort of ridiculed for their poor implementation of HDR for the longest time. I think it was Dolby, 4K Dolby, but whereas the Super Bowl and Thursday Night Football have been converted to HDR10, which is the pretty common standard that everything uses. If you have a 4K TV, it's probably HDR10.
Yeah.
Which
the other one, the other version was Dolby Vision, and that seems to be pretty much going away. Yeah.
Yeah, like I said, it's standards come. Standards aren't always the best. Standards are what is the most economical and what's easily carryable.
And actually to transition just a little bit before we kind of get off the Super Bowl kick, or actually as we get off the Super Bowl kick, one other standard
I see, Ben.
that you kick. Aha, I am hilarious. But I will say that one other standard that happened, you didn't include in the list here, but it happened within the past couple of days. Nathan, I know that you love the European Union as much as you love the UN and and all that good stuff. You are very much in support of large organizations that span multiple governments. Now, I will say that they have
their place.
Okay, there we go. Well, the European Union has recently voted to. Mainly, this was a ruling that the EU is putting on Apple, and really a restriction, or I don't know what you would call it, where they're saying that all smartphones, and really all smartphones already do, have support for USB
I saw that story,
C, and Apple is the only one, even though there were reports that the very next iPhone was going to be USB-C compatible anyways.
I saw that, yeah.
All smartphones have to be USB-C compatible.
Yeah.
Speaking of standards, yeah.
This is why Brexit happened. So this is why Brexit was just the beginning. And so, yeah, the EU stepping over lines. I can't help but think that the EU is trying to get ahead of this and trying to position themselves as, look what we did to Apple. We forced their hand. No, you did not. It's been reported widely that Apple's going to switch everything over to USB-C anyway. They've already done it with iPads. They've already done it with their MacBooks. Of course, they're going to do it with iPhones. No, I mean, I get what they're trying to do. I get the idea. We went through this years ago. You remember, with micro USB, with mini USB.
Well, yeah, and actually, the article that we just pulled up, and I know that you can't see it, although I might share my screen with you here in a second. But they actually, Apple, to get around the micro USB adapter, which was a 2009 European Union agreement, they just included a little micro USB cord. But then, of course, all of their devices, were still Lightning connectors, and they just included a little adapter within the box. So like they came with a micro USB charging cable, but then you had to use the adapter that was also included.
Let's eliminate
in the box.
waste by making more waste.
Well, yeah, and again, it was just Apple's way of getting their way, but also complying with regulation.
But it also shows you what nonsense arbitration that something like the EU does, where they don't think these things through. They they impose these half cockneyed measures, and they expect everyone will just get on board with this. But this is not how innovation goes. This is not how things work. You have to work within the system. One of the problems about requiring standards, right? One of the things about requiring standards is that it keeps mediocre standards standard, right? That's why we still have micro USB, because it was a standard that was imposed by 40% of the electronic world. That's why your clock radio has it. That's why your Kindles have it. Your phones have it. That's why it will not go away, because it was so embedded within culture that it's hard to divest from that. You know that. It's like you can't do that. We would have had, I think, USB-C probably would have come about 3-4 years ago. But instead, again, when you have, it's hard to explain. When it comes to EU regulatory standards, they do it in the guise of saying it's for landfills, it's for ecological reasons, which sounds nice, right? We agree. I mean, you've been into a Dollar Tree lately. They sell these things for $1. They have these things everywhere. I find micro USB cables on the ground by the trash. People just get rid of them like Q-tips. So it's time to go. And I agree with you that USB-C is much better, and I'd like to see more synergy on there. But it's not going to happen if the standard isn't right, and that's why we have, the difference between a charge cable and a transfer cable, correct?
Yep.
Okay, but they look the same, right? They look the same.
Yeah. Well, I mean, most charge cables are, of course, USB type something or other, and then transfer cables, you'll be looking at something like a lightning connector or firebolt.
No, literally. Okay, let me give you an example.
Or are you talking like a networking cable, like in.
Okay, so I have a friend who updated his PlayStation 4 hard drive about 2 or 3 weeks ago, right?
Okay.
And to do that, you need to plug a micro USB charge cable from your PlayStation 4 to your DualShock. Here's the problem. He had like 50 cables at his house. None of them were transfer cables. They were all charge cables. None of them worked, and he panicked about it. And I had to help him on the phone. We had to locate a micro USB charge/transfer cable. And we had to actually buy a third-party switch controller because it actually came with a cable. Because no one knows what these things are, because they look exactly the same, but they are not exactly the same. And Amazon, you've heard of these stories about Amazon selling fake products, right? A lot of that has to do with fake cables, because people will sell lightning cables that are only charge cables. They're not transfer cables. So, for example, if you were to plug your iPhone into your computer with a transfer cable, your computer would recognize it, right? And you'd be able to transfer data. But a charge cable wouldn't do that. It wouldn't recognize it. But the connector's the same. The connector's the same, but it's not a transfer cable. And so therefore, it's not the same cable. So we can bicker and fuss all about the port, but the usefulness of the cable is important. You know what I mean? It's very important, and there's a lot of market confusion because of these false standards, like HDMI 1 versus HDMI 2. Does your computer monitor? What's the refresh rate on your monitor? Is it 60?
Well, I was about to say which one. I have 100.
Which one? Yeah.
I have a 100 refresh rate and a 75 refresh rate.
Okay, I have 144, right?
Yeah.
And when I first got my new things, I could not get the 144 to show up. Turns out I needed a new HDMI cable or a display port, so I had to order one. And of course, Amazon sent me a false HDMI cable. It said 2, but it wasn't. It was fake because it looks the same. You know what I mean? So I had to go and buy a DisplayPort cable. And now I got beautiful 144. By the way, 144, awesome. But again, we're quibbling over the port. We're not quibbling over the complexity. And that's about to get a lot more when we go to Thunderbolt 4, which I believe is going to have the same port as USB-C. And by the way, you and your audience knows this. What's the difference between the port of a USB-C connector and a new Thunderbolt connector? Nothing. They look the same, but they're different ports. You know what I mean? They're different. They have different functions.
Yep, and of course USB,
like
in my head, USB has always been a great way to charge things. That has a greater capacity for charging phones, and it can put more voltage through it. But then of course Thunderbolt is great for data transfer, and like we're talking about transferring data, it has like twice the speed of USB that it would normally have. So
Well, or again, let's just start with USB. USB 2 versus USB 3. Now they're color coded. Then you have USB Quick Charge, which is color coded yellow. So again, I just want to state it sounds the European Union doesn't think like this because they're run by idiots. And so what happens is you have this whole argument over a port, but not over the functionality of it. And the result is you create twice as much waste because you're not you they don't seem to understand the specifications and the technical peculiarities of the different types of functionalities. I know
Uh,
it sounds so silly, right? It
I
sounds
would,
so silly, but it's
al-
funny.
although I will say that we did meet up with HDMI and DisplayPort and USB all out at CES. So hopefully we're gonna get them on the show here in the next couple of weeks. So
I hope so. I
yeah,
hope so. And then we can
yeah.
make like they say on Godzilla, let them fight.
No, and really a lot of them, kind of work together at the same time to make sure
No,
that
Ben, let them fight. Let them fight.
let them fight. All right, all right, all right. Well, hey, and also let them come on the
In
show.
Jello.
So
In Jello.
in Jello. Now, I will say though, with that being said, standards, and that was again just another little tangent.
Mm-hmm.
All these different things. This next one I wanted to bring up. This is like a personal point of mine. I grew up on Warcraft 3. I love Warcraft
Oh
3.
God. No.
Like really, it was my game of choice from like when I was let's see, from about 1999 when it came out, I think, to 2004. It was my game of choice for like 5 years.
Which one did you play? Warcraft 2?
Warcraft 3. Well, I played Warcraft 1, Warcraft 2, Warcraft
Mm-hmm.
2 Tides of Vengeance or whatever it was called, Warcraft 3, Warcraft 3 Frozen Throne, and most of my time was spent on Warcraft 3 because it had this amazing online custom game ecosystem that, oh my god, I love playing those for just so long.
You just said, "Oh my God, I love playing."
I did. And I still do. Now, I pre-ordered Warcraft 3 Reforged. I have been playing it. I've been playing through the campaign again just for some nostalgia, but mostly I've been playing the custom games as well. And personally, I have been completely isolated from this quote unquote outrage that's been happening. I had not heard anything about this until you sent me this story. So thank you for tainting me. And then also, want to go ahead and talk about this because I had not
Okay.
heard anything about this.
Full disclosure. Full disclosure. We're friends with Blizzard at
Mhm.
Popzara, and they did send us review copy, and Chris will be generating the review. He's a big fan of the game. He's a big Warcraft fan. I will say this: Warcraft 3 is the one that lost me back in 2002. I was a big, like you said, I was a big Warcraft fan. Warcraft 2 was astonishing to me. I had played Warcraft 1. Warcraft 2 was a quantum leap better in every way.
Oh, it was. Yeah.
I think people who are game developers should study the differences between Warcraft 1 and 2. It's an evolutionary jump the way we just don't see anymore. You know what I mean? And I think we had a quantum jump again with StarCraft.
Yeah.
But here's the thing, though: those type of massive art real-time strategy games were sort of gone by the wayside by 2002. I think Ensemble Studios, the company that did Age of Empires, had pretty much taken the mantle. I don't know if you've ever played it, but Age of Empires 2 is a masterpiece. Which is
Civilization and Age of Empires. Yeah, I
Yeah,
have. Yeah.
it's still there. Microsoft just remastered it and put it on Game Pass.
I saw
And
the Age of
no one's
Empires
and
2 remastered.
yeah,
Yeah.
and no one's complaining. It's a really good remake. But then you saw where Blizzard was going. They were going towards more RGB elements. Warcraft 3 was a scaled down version. It was more RPG driven, and some people really like that. You know this. But it foretold where things were going, and eventually the franchise would metamorphose into an MMO,
Hmm.
um, paid MMO. Here's the thing: I haven't played Warcraft 3 Reforged. I have no intention of playing it. I'm not a big fan of that particular schism. But I will say this: this is the second time this year that Blizzard has remastered a Warcraft game. The first being the original World of Warcraft, which was re-released last year as well. And I don't think they're handling it. I think some offshoot companies is doing the remake. But Chris can tell me, I can tell you from fact, he said it's not the same game. He said it's been massively changed, altered, that videos that were promising features have not manifested in the game. There are bugs, quips, there are changes to gameplay. I think what's really getting to people, Ben, is there's a requirement that if you're going to make custom maps, then you have to sign a waiver saying that Blizzard owns it. You don't, which is interesting to me because I believe map making possibilities from StarCraft is
Hmm.
what created Dota, Defense of the Ancients, which is
It's And really a whole host of games,
Yeah.
and this is why StarCraft and Warcraft 3 will always kind of be special to me.
Yeah.
StarCraft and Warcraft 3, they launched defense engines, like you mentioned. They launched the entire tower defense genre, which you could look at things like Plants vs Zombies, of course. A couple of elements of Warcraft 3 and custom games actually turned into World of Warcraft, like kind of the before of that was in these custom games. You have, of course, League of Legends is an offshoot of Dota. I mean, so many, like the entire gaming ecosystem has StarCraft and really Blizzard and the custom game community to thank for what we have today.
Yeah, and not only that though, just the idea of games as a service, which was going around a little bit. It's nothing new.
Yeah.
You had Ultima Online, it was EverQuest from Sony, but it was Warcraft the one that really took it and made it stable in a way that, I mean, people are still playing the damn game.
Oh, I am. Yeah, for sure.
I mean, they just released, like I said, a remake of the first one, but they're losing subscribers, and they don't. And Overwatch has not turned out to be the cash cow, let's say a Fortnite or even Apex Legend has. And so Blizzard has dropped the ball, and a lot of it has to do with Activision. I think there's consternation between Activision as a publisher and Blizzard. And for those who don't know, Activision owns Blizzard. In fact, it's called Activision Blizzard. But Activision doesn't publish all Blizzard games. Blizzard publishes some of their own stuff. And I think there's an impetus there to make money, as you could imagine. And again, Overwatch was not monetized in a way that Fortnite or any of the other MMOs have been, or like PUBG has been monetized. And so they probably go through their catalog, flip through it, and say, okay, what can we just remake? What can we put a coat of paint on? It's easy money, right? But I think the problem with the Warcraft 3 thing, again, this is all speculation, is that they may have overpromised and underdelivered. And again, some of the changes about retaining ownership probably just haven't sit well. But the story I sent you was about Metacritic and about how the Metacritic reviews have been bombed, which is very similar. It's very similar to what we saw a couple of years ago with Star Wars: The Last Jedi, where Rotten Tomatoes was manipulated from both Hollywood and by the user community. Now, just to be fair, publishers manipulate these systems all the time. Metacritic is the de facto choice for game reviews. A lot of developers will actually put into developer contracts that bonuses can be paid depending on Metacritic scores, and therefore it behooves developers and publishers to ingratiate themselves with the communities of reviewers and professional reviewers to sort of juice up the scores a little bit. But again, user scores are the same, and you've given power to these users who are able to manipulate these systems. I am going to assume that after this debacle happens, Ben, that Metacritic will probably stamp down a little bit on that and try to keep user scores from infiltrating.
And honestly, I really do hope that they do. And I'm actually at the Metacritic one right now because back here with the image or the screenshot that they have on the article, they have 17,000 ratings, and now it's up to 22,000 ratings. Still the same user score, 0.5 instead of 0.5 out of 10. But the Metacritic score has dropped just a little bit from 60 to 60 or 63 to 61. Here's the thing though. If I were reviewing this, in a complete vacuum, just myself,
you would have given a good score.
I know that there's nostalgia here for me, and I know that's going to influence, what I think of it, but there is zero chance this is anywhere near a 0.5 out of 10.
That's what Chris said. He said he likes the game despite all the controversy. He's still having a good time with it.
So am I. Like even if it's a 6 out of 10, like average is 5 out of 10. This is still kind of worth looking at. But if someone were to look at this manufactured outrage, and you mentioned with the Star Wars movies, and I'm thinking back to Snapchat with their remake, and of course they had like a 4.8 rating, and then they did this new revamp of the user interface within Snapchat, and then hey, it became like an internet meme onto itself to go give them a bad review, and it went down to like half a star. out of 5 for Snapchat. Like, you can get it's and we were talking about this idea of influencers on the internet and how they really don't influence things. One thing that they do though, and one thing that they do influence though, is false internet outrage.
So
And
here's the thing.
yeah.
That's because they've discovered, in the same way the Mr. Peanut people have, is that they don't have to influence the scores, but they need to influence the influential, which is the APIs. If you strategically bomb Metacritic, Rotten Tomatoes, or Google reviews, you can literally change the system that does recommendations. You know this, right?
Mm-hmm.
So these are not smart systems. The algorithms are stupid. People never underestimate the power of trolls. They can figure this stuff out better than anybody else. And if I was ever going to make a movie or a video game, I wouldn't release it until I let the trolls have at it. Okay, trolls, find the weakness. Find the weak points, please. So, but the problem is, sorry.
The problem is that
the problem is we got you. We heard what you said. I thought I put that. I swear that phone's on airplane mode. Anyway, what I'm trying to say is, here's my advice. If you're a developer, don't listen to fans. Don't listen to them. They don't know what they're doing. They're not game developers. They're fans. You are literally empowering people who don't have the creativity to make this to influence you. Don't do it. You don't need to be loved that much. Make your product. Let it sit. If it's good, it's good. If it's bad, it's bad. There are very few companies that realize this, and the ones that do make billions. Call of Duty is the most chastised franchise out there, and every year it outsells everything else, and people tend to like it because the vast majority of people are going to be enjoying it. It's one thing to say if you got Warcraft 3 Reforged and it's Barbie's Magic Funhouse, but it's not. It's the same game. It's just different. People don't like being told what to do. They really don't. And can I be honest with you, Ben? A lot of this has nothing to do with the game. A lot of this has to do with what Blizzard did last year regarding the whole Hong Kong protests. Trust me, there's residual hatred for that still lingering. So these people, they get upset over everything. Just enjoy the game if you like it.
And like I was saying earlier, I definitely enjoy the game. And by the way, I have so hard of a time, like so many of these weird websites that I have to go to find the actual features that are missing from this new Reforged Warcraft 3 as opposed to the original one. And like, as someone who has lost all their friends over the last 15 years I used to play Warcraft 3 with, I gotta say that I didn't really notice. Some of them include clans, profiles, ladder, and honestly, I do think that the ladder system is just something that will come out in a little bit. Blizzard is a huge fan of like not time ladders, but like seasons within a ladder, where March 1st to September 1st there will be a ladder ranking system. So I think that's coming. 3D animated campaign backgrounds, who really cares? 3D animated portraits, who really cares? / commands for Battle.net. That's because back in the day, Battle.net used to work a lot like in our what's it called? The IRC chat. There we go.
Battle.net isn't Battle.net still around?
Yes, for sure. And it's been expanded and it's been updated, but it's no longer, again, kind of like an IRC chat. It's its own, kind of thing. So some of them include like communal channel listings and custom campaigns and other things like that. Really, like, if I were to look at that list and go, wow, Warcraft 3 doesn't have all these different things, I would just go, who cares? Like, but the outrage, and I'm seeing everything from class action lawsuits being threatened to, of course, the Metacritic bombing. Now, I guess Blizzard is because of this backlash, they're now doing automated returns for the game. Totally not warranted, but hey,
here's the thing. This is the beast they made. Again, this is what happens when you give these people power. Here's the thing. If I told you that Warcraft 3 Reforged was missing Helvetica font 0.5, and you had an axe to grind, that would occupy your day and night. You would have campaigns about putting Helvetica back in there. It doesn't matter what's missing. It doesn't matter. You know what I mean? All that matters is that you've given me reason to hate and complain.
Let me end this with a highlight for Warcraft 3 and something that it has that the previous one didn't. And I'm not sure how much online play that you did, Nathan, back in the day with StarCraft and Warcraft 3, but you had to do this thing where you had to open certain ports, you had to sign up with certain services, and then of course you had to go through your router, and essentially people had to connect to you and your computer so that they could play a game. And now, with that being said, Warcraft 3 has completely simplified the act of making a custom game, downloading it, and joining a game, or even hosting your own game. Like, no more port opening, no more port forwarding. You just start it and you go. And it's seamless. I love it.
I will say this. One thing that Blizzard doesn't get any credit for, and I will give them full credit, is that they basically predicted the future. Battle.net back in the day, we're talking 90s, right? We're talking we're talking StarCraft. I think StarCraft was
97,
really
98, yeah.
Yeah. They created this futuristic service that you could log in, you could communicate with other people, and they would handle the matchmaking for you. And again, the pro players love to do the IP matching. Again, Age of Empires 2 still had that.
Yeah.
But you saw that nobody ever really did it better than Battle.net, and that service evolved over the years to the point where I think a lot of modern gaming itself is based on Battle.net. We're talking about ID retention. We're talking about game license retention. We're talking about cross-platform play. Back in the day when you'd have, trust me, I can attest to you, I worked at some of the biggest video game magazines in the world, and we were pro Mac and pro PC, and the two would work fine together. We'd have people smashing each other out. And all that stuff was 20 years ago. And so when I hear companies today that say we can't save records, you have to save this. I mean, we're talking PC games back in the day. You had to keep your serial number, you had to keep your install disk, you had to do all this stuff. It was a pain in the rear. It was not Jennifer Lopez's amazing rear, but a pain in my rear, which is not so glorious. And I'll say this, excuse me, Blizzard got through all that stuff. And if you want to see how bad it was, Age of Empires 3 was a mess. It was a train wreck. When they had their ensemble net, it was a disaster. But Battle.net led the way, and so much of modern gaming is built on what Blizzard did. Blizzard, to me, and for all its faults, Blizzard to me is the finest PC game developer that we've ever had. And I wish they made more original stuff, and I really wish they'd make a Warcraft 4 and go back to the old way, but that's probably not going to happen. But again, I don't know if they're deserving of all the hatred. I'm not trying to say that they don't deserve some scorn, but it's times like this. It's really tough for me to defend video gamers as an adult.
They really do latch, they really do latch onto the bad, and they completely ignore the good that's happening out there. And I can't stand with them when they say this. Like, sometimes they have some good points, but on this one, I genuinely enjoyed the game, and to see it just 0.5 out of 10 is just, has become a game onto itself.
Can I say something? Can I say one more thing?
Sure.
This is why when we made Popzara, we didn't have that system. This is actually one of the reasons we don't have it. Because the system itself, the idea, the 0.5 system, for example, IGN, GameSpot, Google, they have this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. First of all, it's a dumb system. It's really stupid. It doesn't work. Please tell me, someone at IGN, and you know who you are, GameSpot, what's the difference between a 6.7 and a 3.2? You can't tell me. It's not aggregated. You make it up. You guess the number. So we did Roger Ebert's system, up and down. And because we're not compatible, and trust me, I'm talking as someone who's been talking with Metacritic and Game Rankings and Rotten Tomatoes about how to transfer our system numerically into their system. So I know what I'm talking about. One of the reasons we're not on Metacritic is our system's not compatible with theirs, because they have to ascribe a certain numerical value. And when you only have a 3 or 4 point system, it doesn't ascribe really well. They want you to have that 0.5 system, that 0.5, 1, 1.5, 2, 2.5. But it's stupid. It just causes mess. Here's my challenge to your readers, okay? Your listeners. Go to IGN. Go look up a review. Go read the comments. And 9 times out of 10, 80% of those comments will be about the score. about why is it an 8.7? Why is it 8.2? Oh, it deserves a 9.3. You just make it up.
It's almost like the thing that you were mentioning earlier. And by the way, there's music playing in the background because we're about done. But it's almost like the thing where, we were talking about influencers, and really this is something that that really shines to, is that you can have that immediate effect. You and your followers can go somewhere and hit that down button, and you can watch a number drop in real time.
Yes.
Like if there's not that instant feedback, then I feel like a lot of that power goes away. So with that being said,
congratulations, people. You've become internet terrorists.
And congratulations to Computer America. I forgot to mention this. Today marks Computer America's 29th year in syndication. February 1991 was the first month Computer America was on the air. So, hey,
happy birthday.
Check it out. Happy birthday, Computer America.
Happy birthday. Happy birthday.
Absolutely. So, Nathan, if people want to find out more about you and, of course, your work, your editors, your writers, where can they go?
Now, popzara.com, popzara.com, popzara.com. Got a bunch. I'm really proud of. We did some year-end podcasts with the best games and the best movies of 2019. So please listen to them. We got some really good, some feedback on there. Lots of new stuff. Lots of reviews coming. It's gonna get wild, people. 2020 is great. Looking forward, not backwards.
And hey, we're definitely looking forward to it as well. So everyone, hey, we'll be back tomorrow. Let's see, real quick. Tomorrow on the show, we should have. Oh, I should remember this. Tomorrow on the program, 4 to 5 p.m. Eastern.
It's old age. You're getting older.
It must be either that or this cold is going to win in the end. Hero.live. If you haven't heard about Hero, they're going to be talking all about, I believe this is a platform for social media for video game and, of course, gamers out there. So, hey. Now, with that being said, everyone, we're done here. Thank you so much, everyone. Until next time, Nathan, thank you so much for rescheduling, and we look forward to hearing from you at the end of the month. Everyone, have a great one. Bye-bye.
Bye.